So in this section, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about taxonomy and classification, and then start to go through various groups of organisms, talking about some of their characteristics and unique traits, and so on. Talk about how we classify organisms, and we'll go from there. So to begin, you've studied classification and taxonomy before. Classification is basically a way of grouping organisms, way of putting things sort of into categories based on certain traits or certain characteristics. So that's what classification is, classifying things into different groups. The science of that is called taxonomy. And it's sort of just human nature to put things into groups and categories, and it's been going on for a long time in terms of some history of taxonomy, all the way back to ancient Greece. Aristotle started by putting things into three groups, basically animals, into land dwellers, water dwellers, and air dwellers, based on sort of where they spent most of their time. And eventually, John Ray, another individual in the 17th century, started to change classification a little bit and switch it to basis on not where something lives, but on their body structure. Okay? What their bodies look like, what traits they had. This is also where we begin our definition of species, of grouping living organisms to various species. And today we use the definition really of a group of organisms that can mate and produce fertile offspring form a species. Then along came Carl von Linne in the 1700s. Okay. He's a big fan of Latin. Changed his name to Carolus Linnaeus to make it more Latinate. And that's Carl von Linne, Carolus Linnaeus. We call him the father of modern taxonomy. He came up with our ideas about how we name species, developed a system of binomial nomenclature, which you probably remember means what? Binomial nomenclature. Right? Yeah, it's a system of giving things a scientific name in which it's composed of two parts. Okay? Linnaeus published a work called System Natura, in which he identified many different species and gave an overview of his system of classification. Okay. And so in binomial nomenclature, each living organism gets a scientific name, which has two parts. The two parts come from its genus name and its species name. So a tree that you all have seen, called Acer saccharum, is a scientific name. I don't know the common name of that tree.
Maple tree?
It is. What type of maple? There's many species of maple. If you look at this, it may give you a hint. Saccharum. Ever heard of the artificial sweetener called saccharin? No.
No.
No? Okay. There is an artificial sweetener named saccharin. Which type of maple would this be? Know a type of maple tree?
No.
I know.
No. What? Sugar maple. That's a sugar maple. That's where maple syrup comes from. What's that? So our modern classification system has changed throughout the last 40 or 50, 60 years. System we use now starts with domain as the top level group, then goes down through kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. At some point we can. If we think about humans or where humans fit in the system, humans are in the domain eukarya, kingdom. And so some of these are in, really it should be animalia, because these are all, oh no, they're not. These are not the Latin versions, but animalia, chordata, mammalia, then we go primate, hominidae, homo, sapiens. And that's where humans fit in the overall classification scheme. And so we know the larger, the top level groups, there's many, many species in them. And as we go down our list, we get more and more specific to organisms that are in the same genus or family have many things in common, many characteristics, whereas things in the same kingdom may be very different from each other. So the level of relatedness increases. So where did this modern system come from? Well, if you think about Linnaean classification, the classification system set up by Linnaeus, he basically split things into two kingdoms, plants and animals. Okay. Sorry. And that was it. He came up with a system of binomial nomenclature in which each species has a two-part name, the genus and the species. So Acer saccharum, Acer rubrum. Anyone want to take a guess as to what type of maple Acer rubrum is? It's a red maple. Felis leo, Felis domesticus. Again, these are scientific names. They're written, they're in Latin, they're written in italics, or they're underlined.
Oh, Felis leo, feel like a lion.
Yeah, that's a lion. Well, so Linnaean system stayed pretty stable for a while until in the 1860s, when scientists added another group there called protists. The protist kingdom is a weird kingdom. Many scientists today would like to get rid of it because it was sort of a catch-all kingdom where they put things that didn't quite fit in a plant or animal. It was just sort of a general category. Okay? Oops. Then in the 1950s, another kingdom was added, a kingdom called bacteria or Monera. And that was based on the presence or absence of a nucleus, a nuclear membrane. In the 60s, we have another system. In the 90s, and even another system. We'll talk more about those next week.
Is it lunchtime?
Yeah. It is.
I feel like 7th graders have it the best, lunch-wise.
No, 8th graders.
No,
They're the